The lab was silent, except for the soft hum of machines. Dr. Alara Vance stood over the microscope, her hands trembling. She had studied alien toxins, unstable antimatter, and even substances forbidden by the Galactic Council itself, but nothing had ever made her blood run cold like what she was seeing now. This wasn't possible. The sample was human blood, taken from a routine health scan of a captured Terran soldier. But inside it, something glowed faintly, something alive, something pulsing with a strange rhythm. At first, she thought it was contamination, a trick of the light. Then the instruments confirmed it. The readings were off the charts, showing energy levels that rivaled small-scale fusion reactors. Her assistant Yarrow leaned in, his 4 insect-like eyes widening. "Ilara, that energy signature, this can't be right. It's dangerous." His voice cracked, and Yarrow was not a being who scared easily. He was from the Varnock species, warriors known for their fearless nature. But now he stepped back from the table as if the blood sample might explode. Ilara didn't answer right away. She kept staring through the scope, watching the glowing particles dance and shift as if they knew they were being observed. It wasn't just energy. There was structure to it, something like intent. It almost felt alive, as though it could think. She finally whispered, "Yarrow, this is beyond dangerous. This could destroy worlds." The lab lights flickered for a moment, as if reacting to the sample's energy. Yarrow's mandibles clicked nervously. "We have to report this to the Council." Ilara turned to him sharply. "No. If the Council learns about this, they won't just study it, they'll weaponize it. And if they realize it's in every human's blood," she let the thought hang in the air. They both knew what would happen. Humanity would be hunted not for conquest or revenge, but for harvest. She pulled the data logs and encrypted them under her private code, but it was too late. Unbeknownst to her, the lab systems had already pinged the central network. The readings from the sample had triggered automated alerts. Somewhere in the deep chambers of the Galactic Council, red warnings were flashing. And eyes that should have stayed blind were now turning toward Earth. The door to the lab hissed open, and 2 figures in black environmental suits stepped inside. Their helmets had no visors, only smooth black plate Council enforcers. Without a word, they moved toward the workstation. Yarrow instinctively stepped between them and Ilara. But one of the enforcers pushed him aside with inhuman strength. "Ilara Vance," one of them said. His voice muffled but cold. "You are hereby placed under Council custody. You have discovered a restricted Clay Zero material. You will come with us immediately." Her heart pounded. She glanced at the small containment vial on the table. If they took it, humanity's fate was sealed. Without thinking, she palmed the vial and slipped it into her lab coat. She didn't know why she did it. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was defiance, but deep down, she felt a strange certainty that this substance belonged to humans, and no one else should have it as. They escorted her out. Yarrow locked eyes with her. His mandibles moved silently, but she understood the words. Don't let them take it. The corridor outside was dimly lit, leading toward the transport bay. She could hear the distant hum of the Council's security craft. Every step felt heavier, not just from fear, but from the faint, impossible heat of the vial against her chest. She didn't understand it, but the substance seemed to be reacting to her heartbeat far away. On a distant monitoring station orbiting the Council's central world, a group of alien officials were already debating the meaning of the discovery. Some demanded immediate extermination of humanity before the blood energy could be weaponized by Terrans themselves. Others whispered in horror that such power in a naturally evolved species might mean humans weren't what they appeared to be at all. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the galaxy, a predator older than the Council stirred. It had felt the energy in human blood before once, long ago, and it had taken the combined might of 50 civilizations to stop it. Now, it was awake again. Ilara didn't know any of that yet. All she knew was that the most dangerous substance in the universe was inside her pocket. And inside every human alive. The lab was silent, except for the hum of containment fields and the steady breathing of the scientists. Dr. Vera stood behind a shield of reinforced glass, eyes fixed on the cylindrical chamber in front of her. Inside, a drop of human blood floated in zero gravity, held in place by invisible force fields. It looked harmless, just a deep crimson bead, like a ruby drifting in space, but everyone in the room knew it wasn't harmless at all. The data from the first analysis had been impossible, almost absurd. They had detected energy levels that no organic substance should possess, readings that belonged to the heart of a collapsing star. This was supposed to be nothing more than a medical scan. Now it was something else entirely, a test that could change the galaxy. She tapped her console. A thin beam of light touched the drop of blood. The reaction was instant. The bead expanded, then contracted violently, releasing a shockwave that slammed into the containment field with enough force to make the reinforced walls groan. Instruments shrieked in alarm, their numbers flashing red as energy levels spiked higher and higher. One of the assistants, a young tech named Orlan, stumbled back, shouting that the readings were climbing beyond safety limits. Vera didn't answer. She couldn't look away. The blood wasn't just reacting, it was fighting back. It pulsed with something alive, something aware, as if it understood it was being tested. The force field began to shimmer, struggling too. Hold. Sparks danced along the metal frame, and the air filled with the sharp, electric taste of ozone. One more spike in energy, and the entire chamber could fail. Orlan shouted again, this time pleading to shut it down. But Vera's hand hovered over the controls, trembling. She knew that if they ended the test now, the data would be incomplete. No one else in the galaxy had ever witnessed this substance react like this. If they stopped, they might never know how far its power could go. The decision wasn't about curiosity anymore, it was about control. If this substance could be weaponized, whoever held it would have the most feared force in the universe at their command. The shockwave hit again. Stronger this time, and a hairline crack appeared in the inner containment glass. Vera's eyes widened. This wasn't supposed to happen, not with reinforced Starforge composites. Orlan screamed at her to cut the power. She slammed her palm against the panel, ending the beam. The blood drop instantly calmed, shrinking back to its original size, floating silently once again. The instruments quieted. Emergency lights stopped flashing, but the room didn't feel safe. Not anymore. Everyone could feel the lingering tension in the air. Like the room itself was holding its breath. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Orlan whispered the words that everyone else was too afraid to say. This isn't just dangerous. It's alive. The others turned to look at him, but no one laughed. The idea didn't seem impossible anymore. They had all seen the way it reacted, the way it fought against the field, the way it waited. Dr. Vera straightened, her mind racing. If Orlan was right, then this wasn't just some rare biological anomaly. It was a living weapon, one that already existed inside every human body. That meant billions of potential carriers scattered across the galaxy, and if the wrong species learned to trigger it... She didn't finish the thought. The door to the lab slid open, and two figures stepped in dark uniforms. No insignia, no expression. They didn't need to announce who they were. Everyone knew what it meant when silent operatives arrived in the middle of classified research. Without a word, they sealed the lab, confiscated every data core, and ordered everyone to submit to a full memory scan. Dr. Vera's chest tightened. Memory scans meant erasing what they'd seen, wiping the knowledge from their minds. But before she could protest, one of the operatives leaned close and spoke in a voice low enough for only her to hear. Doctor, keep your mouth shut, and you might live to see what happens next. Then they took the sample and left. News traveled fast in the galaxy, but rumors traveled faster. It began as a flicker of conversation on encrypted channels used by black market traders. A hushed mention here, a cryptic warning there. Something had been discovered on Earth, something so dangerous that the most secure labs in the Orion Arm had been locked down without explanation. The traders didn't know what it was, but they knew the signs of a secret worth killing for. Within days, smugglers were whispering to bounty hunters to mercenary captains, mercenaries to planetary warlords. By the time the rumors reached the listening posts of the Outer Rim, The story had grown into something terrifying. Earth wasn't just hiding a weapon, it was a weapon. In the deep halls of the Varelian High Council, Admiral Threx stood before a projection of Earth, the blue and green sphere rotating slowly against the black void. Around him, the other council members argued in sharp-clipped tones, their voices thick with fear. They had all heard different versions of the same rumor. Some said it was a new energy source, others claimed it was a genetic mutation. But one phrase kept appearing again and again: human blood. Threx didn't trust rumors, but he trusted patterns, and this was a dangerous pattern. Too many species were suddenly interested in a planet that had been considered irrelevant only a few years ago. The kind of attention never ended peacefully. Threx leaned forward, his claws tapping against the metal table. "If the rumors are true," he said slowly, "then every human is carrying a weapon the size of a warship inside them. And that means Earth's population is not just a threat, they are an army." The room fell silent. The council members looked at each other, their expressions shifting from skepticism to unease. For generations, humans had been underestimated: fragile bodies, short lifespans, unpredictable tempers. They were valued as traitors, mercenaries, and explorers, but never as a strategic danger. Now, for the first time, the galaxy was considering what might happen if they weren't just unpredictable, but unstoppable. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the trio's belt, a different kind of meeting was taking place. The heads of 5 major crime syndicates gathered in a dimly lit chamber carved into an asteroid. They didn't care about politics, but they cared very much about profit. The human weapon was becoming the most valuable rumor in the galaxy, and that meant anyone who could confirm its existence could name their price. One of the syndicate leaders, a cold-eyed being known only as Vask, slammed a dagger into the table and declared that they should move now, before the governments locked Earth down entirely. His proposal was simple: send retrieval teams to capture live human specimens and find out the truth themselves. Back on Earth, the humans knew nothing of the storm forming around them. In the streets of New Boston, people went about their lives, unaware that their very blood had become the most sought-after resource in the galaxy. But in a small, unmarked ship drifting in high orbit, Dr. Vera sat alone, staring at a single vial of red liquid suspended in a magnetic cradle. The operatives who had taken the sample from her lab hadn't erased her memory after all. They had told her nothing, but their silence spoke volumes. They wanted her to understand just enough to be useful later. And as she studied the vial, she began to realize the most terrifying part. The blood in front of her wasn't just from any human, it was from a soldier. Somewhere deep inside that liquid, hidden beneath the cells and proteins, was a force that could shatter containment. Glass and push back against energy fields meant to hold a star. And if this was what a single drop could do, Vera didn't even want to imagine what an entire battlefield of humans could unleash. The ship that moved through the shadow of Earth's moon was nothing remarkable at first glance. Its hull was a dull matte black, its engines masked to appear like the harmless drift of space debris. But inside, it was filled with armed operatives from the Zoran Syndicate, specialists in abduction, extraction, and vanishing before any government even realized something had happened. Their leader, Captain Ralvek, had been promised enough credits to buy his own moon if he could deliver a living human to the buyer. Not just any human, though. The order was specific. A soldier. The Syndicate wanted the strongest, most dangerous sample possible. Ralvek wasn't one for rumors, but this mission had been wrapped in too much secrecy to ignore. He'd heard the whispers about human blood, how it could heal wounds that should kill, how it could resist poisons that felled entire species, how it could survive temperatures that burned through armor. He didn't believe it all. But if there was even a fraction of truth, the payday would be worth the risk. The target was already chosen: a veteran named Sergeant Daniel Rourke, currently stationed at a coastal defense outpost. The abduction began like hundreds of others Ralvek had carried out. His team used localized dampening fields to cut communications, followed by precision teleportation that placed them inside the human outpost without triggering alarms. They moved like shadows, their weapons set to stun. Within seconds, they were inside Rourke's quarters, where the soldier sat at a desk, writing something on a battered piece of paper. Rolvek expected fear, confusion, maybe even an instinctive reach for a weapon. Instead, Rourke looked up at them, his expression calm, almost bored. "You're not from here," he said flatly. The first operative moved forward to fire the stun shot. That's when everything went wrong. The moment the beam struck Rourke's chest, the room seemed to change. Heat radiated off the soldier's skin, and the stun weapon's power cells overloaded and exploded in the shooter's hands. Rourke didn't flinch. He stood, towering over them, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Bad idea," he said softly. Then he moved. Rolvek had seen speed before predators on jungle worlds that could kill before a prey animal even registered movement, but nothing like this. Rourke crossed the room in less than a heartbeat, his hand closing around the first attacker's throat with crushing force. The alien's armor cracked under his grip. He spun, using the body as a shield as the others opened fire. But their stun shots bent in the air, curving away from him, as if repelled by an invisible barrier. It wasn't a shield, Rolvek could tell from the distortion in the air. It was something else. Something coming from inside the human. One by one, the operatives fell. Not dead, at least. Not at first, but incapacitated. Their weapons shattered, their bodies racked by an unseen pressure that left them gasping and unable to move. Rourke picked up one of the discarded rifles, turned it over in his hands, and crushed it like it was made of paper. Then he stepped toward Rolvek. Rolvek raised his hands, his breathing shallow. "We were told. We were told you were just human," he stammered. Rourke stopped a foot away, studying him. "I am human," he said, and there was no boast in his tone, only a cold certainty. Then he leaned closer. "Go back to whoever sent you. Tell them to stop. Next time I won't be this gentle." He dropped the last operative's unconscious body at Rolvek's feet and walked away, as if the fight had never happened. The syndicate ship didn't linger. Rolvek ordered an immediate retreat, his mind racing with what he had just witnessed. There were no scars on Rourke, no signs of exhaustion. If anything, the soldier seemed stronger after the encounter, as if conflict itself fueled him. Whatever. The truth about human blood was, it was far more dangerous than anyone had guessed. When Rolvek reported back to Vask, the crime lord listened without interrupting, his cold eyes narrowing with every detail. But instead of fear, Vask smiled. "If one human can do that," he said, "imagine what an army could do." "We're not stopping, we're accelerating." He leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "Next time, Captain, we don't take one. We take dozens." Far above Earth, in a silent relay station hidden in the rings of Saturn, Admiral Threx received the first unconfirmed reports of the failed abduction. The files were fragmentary, intercepted from syndicate chatter, but the pattern was unmistakable. A known energy surge, multiple operatives disabled, a human left unharmed. Threx closed the report and sat back, the weight of a new reality pressing against him. The galaxy would not stop now. The first attempt had failed, but the next ones would be bigger, smarter, and far more ruthless. And if humans really did have this hidden power, it would only be a matter of time before the galaxy turned Earth into the most dangerous battlefield in history. The great war fleets of the galaxy had gathered in the cold black void, their ships like floating cities, armed and ready. Every species that had learned of the human blood secret had one thought: it must not remain with the humans. The Council claimed this was about universal safety, but everyone knew it was about power. If even a drop of human blood could be turned into a weapon capable of destroying a planet, then whoever controlled humanity would control the galaxy. Yet as the fleets positioned themselves near the Sol system, they saw no fear from Earth. No mass evacuations. No desperate calls for peace. Instead, they saw movement strange, precise, and far too confident for a species supposedly unaware of the danger they were in. On Earth, deep under a mountain base, Captain Elias Kane stood. Over a long table covered in holographic maps of the system, his voice was calm as he addressed the gathered commanders. "They think they've come for us, but they don't know. We've been preparing for them since the first moment they looked our way." Around him, soldiers and scientists alike shared the same steady gaze. For weeks, humanity had been piecing together the truth. Their blood wasn't just dangerous. It was unique in a way no alien fully understood. And the more humans studied it, the more they realized something terrifying. The substance in their blood was alive, and it was evolving. Far above, the alien fleets began their first wave of maneuvers. Massive carriers launched swarms of drones to probe Earth's defenses. The galaxy expected resistance, but they did not expect what came next. Human orbital stations, long thought to be simple observation posts, unfolded into heavily armed platforms, releasing swarms of their own, not drones, but living ships. Bioengineered craft, grown using the very substance aliens feared, darted into battle with inhuman speed and intelligence. Every ship moved like a predator that could smell its prey. The alien admirals were shocked. They've already weaponized it. One gasped in a transmission that went across the fleet. Others denied it, insisting it was impossible, that humans couldn't have known enough to harness the substance so quickly. But in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, something much worse was waiting. A massive shadow moved, large enough to blot out the stars. It was not a ship, not in the traditional sense. It was alive, a construct of metal and flesh, pulsing with the same energy that ran through human veins. The humans called it Leviathan, and it was the crown jewel of their secret project. When the Leviathan's deep, resonating roar reached the alien fleets through the void, even the most battle-hardened veterans felt a primal fear. Ships shifted uneasily. Orders were repeated twice, sometimes 3 times, before anyone acted. For the first time, the galaxy's combined forces wondered if they had made a mistake. If humanity had been capable of this, what else were they hiding? Yet pride and greed outweighed fear. The fleets pushed forward, intent on reaching Earth's orbit, back on the planet. Kane watched their advance through a massive viewing screen. "They still think this is about taking something from us," he said quietly to his second-in-command. "They don't understand it's already inside them." At first, the words made no sense. But Kane knew the human blood's strange. Substance had already begun to spread beyond Earth. Small traces had entered alien black markets through earlier encounters. Traded in secret for weapons and tech, anyone who had come in contact with it was already changing. In the deep silence of space, the first great clash began. Alien plasma fire lit the void, streaks of light crossing the blackness. Human bioships tore through their ranks, their hulls shifting and adapting mid-battle. The Leviathan moved slowly at first, but when it struck, entire fleets vanished under its assault. The Council had come to take the substance from humanity, but now, as Kane had predicted, they were beginning to realize the truth. This was no longer about taking a weapon away. It was about stopping something they might already be carrying in their own veins. And by the time they understood that, it was already too late. The battle over the Sol system had turned into something no alien strategists could have predicted. The combined fleets of dozens of species, armed with centuries of technology, battle doctrines, and sheer numbers, were being torn apart by a force born in the veins of humanity. The alien commanders kept sending new formations forward, hoping to overwhelm Earth by brute force, but every time they advanced, the battlefield changed in ways that defied logic. The human bioships adapted mid-fight, reshaping their armor and weapons in response to enemy fire. Energy blasts that had worked seconds ago suddenly passed harmlessly through strange shifting membranes. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning. From the bridge of the Leviathan, Captain Elias Kane watched the alien forces burn. The great living warship pulsed with an eerie red glow, its skin-like hull stretching and rippling as though alive. In truth, it was alive. Every nerve of the Leviathan was connected to the same living substance in human blood. Kane didn't need traditional control panels. He felt the ship's hunger, its awareness, its desire to hunt. And deep down, he knew it wasn't just obeying orders, it was choosing. That realization should have terrified him, but instead, it filled him with grim satisfaction. The Council fleets still didn't understand. They thought they were fighting human ingenuity, human engineering. They didn't realize they were fighting something that had been waiting since before humanity had even evolved. Something dormant, hidden in Earth's biology, now awakened by alien interference. Every drop of human blood carried the same potential, and every alien who had ever exchanged blood, touched a wound, or experimented with a sample was now a carrier. The galaxy believed they could contain Earth's dangerous substance. But the truth was worse. Containment had been impossible the moment first contact happened. On the battlefield, panic spread through the alien ranks. Some ships broke. Formation, retreating without orders. Entire armadas began broadcasting distress signals, calling for reinforcements. Even though no reinforcements would change the outcome, the Leviathan tore through them with surgical precision, ignoring smaller craft to focus on command ships, decapitating the enemy's chain of command in minutes. Kane gave no mercy orders. This wasn't just war, it was a demonstration. Humanity wanted the galaxy to understand. If they came for Earth again, they wouldn't just lose fleets. They'd lose entire civilizations. Far away, deep within the council chambers, desperate leaders argued over their next move. Some demanded total withdrawal. Others screamed for orbital bombardment of Earth, no matter the cost. But one truth silenced them all. Reports were coming in from distant worlds, places far from the Sol system, where strange biological anomalies were appearing. Soldiers were collapsing as their bodies began to adapt in impossible ways. Populations were reporting rapid changes in physiology, some developing reflexes and senses no member of their species had ever possessed. The substance wasn't just a weapon, it was a seed, and it had already taken root across the galaxy. In orbit, Kane received a final encrypted transmission from Earth Command. Initiate Phase 3. He closed his eyes and sent the signal, directly through the Leviathan's living network. All across the battlefield, human bioships stopped attacking and began releasing microscopic clouds invisible to the naked eye into the void. The aliens thought it was debris, the aftermath of destruction. They didn't realize those clouds carried something infinitely more dangerous than plasma or missiles. They carried life, human life, in its most dangerous, adaptable form. As the alien fleets scattered, trying to escape, Kane spoke quietly to his crew. They came to take it from us. Every one of them will carry it home. There was no triumph in his voice, only certainty. Humanity no longer needed to win battles in the traditional sense. The war was already decided not on the battlefield, but in the bloodstreams of their enemies. By the time the galaxy truly understood what had happened, they would already be human,